My name is Russell Stowers. I'm the director for the rehabilitation services here in the hospital. I've been here 13 years. That's my ADIT. Harvey Milk said, "It takes not a compromise to give people their rights. It takes not money to respect the individual, and it takes not political deal to give people freedom. It takes not survey also to remove repression." We are so fortunate that in Santa Fe and at Christus St. Vincent, we have a welcoming and inclusive environment in which we can provide patient care to our patients. Christus St. Vincent is on a journey to become a leader in policies and practices related to equality and inclusion of LGBT patients, visitors, and their employees. With this, Christus St. Vincent has created a healthcare equality index committee. This committee is a national LGBT benchmarking tool which evaluates healthcare facilities with their policies and practices related to equity and inclusion of their LGBT patients, visitors, and employees. Some of the initiatives that we are embarking on is to create an employee resource group in which employees will have the opportunity to reach out for assistance. Other initiatives include creating a more inclusive policies for patients and the associates to create an environment where everyone is treated fairly and respectfully. Lastly, please join us today at 4 p.m. at the loading dock if you would like to decorate the Pride float. We have a big float in the Pride Parade tomorrow, so we're going to decorate that at 4 p.m. today at the back of the loading dock. We are a primary sponsor of that event, so thank you for Lillian, Kathy, and the entire SET group for supporting this and supporting our associates, the patients, and the community. Also, before we have cupcakes, I would like Reverend Talitha Arnold to say a few words. And she is the pastor at United Church of Santa Fe, right across the street from the hospital, which has been helping us with a lot of things. One of the things that the church did this last year is every Friday, a lot of the members from the church supported food for the COVID unit every Friday evening. A lot of the folks did, and the whole community stepped out to do that, but Talitha and the congregation was just one of the few community members that helped support the staff in the COVID unit. So, Talitha, it's all you.
Oh, thank you, Russell. I'll make this brief because I don't want to stand between anybody and their cupcakes. But Russell also didn't say that in 2013, early November, I performed their wedding at United Church of Santa Fe. That was the year that the barriers came down in New Mexico for same-gender marriages. And even though I'd been doing them for about 20 years, in the don't ask, don't tell capacity, they were finally legal. And I told them they could no longer live in sin. It was great. It was one of the blessed days of that time. And thank you, Kathy Etry, for your gracious welcome. Kathy and I know each other for a long time from the ethics committee and various other things around the hospital. So it's a great day, and I thank Russell and the whole staff for all of the leadership that you're showing in this area. So he asked me if I could come across some inspirational quotes. And I do have one I want to share with you from an Episcopal bishop who is also a Choctaw elder of the Choctaw Indigenous Nation. But before I get to that, because I sent him a whole lot of things from people like Maya Angelou and Martin Luther King Jr., and he said this would be the one to share. But before I do that, I also want to share with you just a story that I sent to Russell this morning. I write on a regular basis for my denomination, our denomination, the United Church of Christ. I do a daily reflection about two or three times a month. And out of the blue today, the one showed up that I'd written for that went out to the whole United Church of Christ all over across the country. And it's based on a story that was told in the book of Acts about Paul and some other early Christians in a storm at sea, and they were going to be thrown overboard by the sailors. And there was this one Roman centurion, his name was Julius, who risked his life to save them all, and said, "No, we're not going to throw them overboard. We're going to make it all together to the shore." And in fact, that happened. And as a result, Paul was saved, and that community was able to grow and stay together. And what I wrote about was the fact that we never hear about Julius again. He was a Roman centurion, but Roman centurions were a dime a dozen. We never hear about him again, but if it hadn't been for his courage, that community and what happened later would never have happened. And what I wrote about was that it made me think about all the people upon whom our lives depend. Paul depended, his life depended on this unknown Roman centurion named Julius. And I've thought about this year and how our lives have depended upon all of you. All of you. But yes, as a pastor, I'm certainly dependent upon the church that I serve and upon people like Russell in that capacity and others. But one thing I've been trying to underscore for the congregation I serve is, if this year has taught us anything, it's how much we depend on people whose names we may not even know. And you guys are at the top of that list. You guys are at the top of that list. And I just want to honor that and to say that from the bottom of my heart, because I know how hard your work has been and will continue to be as you pivot and turn and plan and replan and pivot and all of that. And in the midst of it all, this commitment to be an inclusive community, to serve the inclusive community of Santa Fe, is stellar. You all could have just sat back and said, this wasn't important, we got too many other things to do. You haven't done it. And you haven't done it. You haven't done that. You haven't just sat back and said, my job's too big or my job's too hard. You've stepped into it. You've leaned into it and said, you know what? If we're going to be a community called Santa Fe, we got to be in this thing together. And you guys are all part of that. You're very central to it. And so I thank you for being here today. I thank you for your courage. I thank you for your witness. I thank you as LGBTQ people and advocates and associates, because there have been a lot of things that have brought us to this day, and a lot of people, and you're at the top of the list. And on behalf of the whole community, not just the community I serve, but the whole community of Santa Fe, and everybody who walks through these doors, I thank you for that witness. May your names be written in the book of life. So from Bishop and Choctaw Elder Stephen Charleston, he says, we must take nothing for granted in days like these. We will have to work hard to obtain the vision of the world to come, perhaps harder than we ever have before. But I believe we will work. We will rise to the occasion, just as we have in the past. And when we do, tomorrow is going to surprise us with its grace. Look into your heart. Look past today's headlines. You don't have to be an optimist to watch the Spirit at work. And so come stand closer now. Come stand together. The struggle for tomorrow continues. The issues are many and the resources few. We need one another, all of us who share the vision of a free and fair future. We will not attain it alone. It will not be birthed easily or sustained easily. Justice takes work, and hope takes courage. We need one another. We need the strength of our combined wisdom and the passion of our shared commitment. And trusting in the Spirit, reaching out to every culture, every gender, every tradition, we will prevail, because we will not conquer. We will refuse to conquer, refuse the ancient temptation to power, and in so doing begin a new chapter of hope for every story ever told by those who long for peace, for justice, for equality. Come stand closer now. Amen. Thank you all so much.
Reverend Arnold. She is such an ally of ours and is always there when we need her. And gosh, what beautiful words. Thank you so much, Reverend Arnold. And I just want to take a minute to acknowledge Russell for his leadership and the team that's working. You know, we always do some kind of small observation, but this is a big day, because what we've done this year is we've made a commitment to the Health Equality Index, which is really stepping it up to tell the world that we are an environment that welcomes all patients, that brings them in and cares for them, and that we create an environment where our associates gifts and share them. And so, so I feel really proud to be part of an organization that stands up and claims that and leads. And so, a special thanks to everyone who's made today particularly special and tomorrow. This is the team. You guys saw the amazing job that they did on the mannequin, which is a fun kind of thing. So I also love that we bring fun to it. So yeah. So let's enjoy cupcakes.
Cupcake!
Stand together for cupcakes.
What kind do you want?